I trust everybody is enjoying the evening so far, having a hearty dinner. I can smell the beef all the way over here on the stage. I have to tell you, it looks and smells exquisite, doesn't it? Now, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, our speaker this evening, James, is going to be on stage again, and things are going to be even more exciting right now as the session is going to be an interactive Q&A. So without further ado, James, please. How about a round of applause?
Get there quick. Okay. Is this microphone on? Can everybody hear me? How's everyone's sustainable performance doing? My first feat of performance this evening was to eat that soup without spilling it down my shirt, and I managed to have done that, which is great. So keep voting for these questions if you'd like them answered. There's some great ones there. Unsurprisingly, the question with the most votes: what if I only need 4 hours of sleep? Maybe that's my rhythm. Not everyone needs 7 to 9 hours. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to bust this myth for you right now. If I was to round to the nearest whole number, the number of people in this room who can perform adequately on less than 7 hours of sleep per night, that number would be 0. There are a few people with a genetic variation which means that they can perform adequately on less than 7 hours of sleep, but that is a tiny fraction of the population. If you think for a moment, if you're one of these people who's convinced that they can operate well on less than 7 hours of sleep or even 4 hours of sleep, I'd like to remember how you felt if you were fortunate enough to go on holiday at some point and sleep as much as you like. Now, if you're anything like me, I do struggle with my sleep as well. I travel a lot. I don't always get to sleep enough. This summer, I managed to get a 2-week holiday, went away with my wife and kids, managed to sleep more than 7 hours a night. And about 3 days in, I started looking around. It was like I could see colours again. I started to notice things that I didn't notice before. I was tricking myself. And actually, there's some good evidence for this. They did a study back in 2004 where they got a group of people and they divided them into 3. They tracked them for 2 weeks. Group 1, unfortunately, didn't get to sleep at all. They didn't make it to 2 weeks. Group 2, they controlled their sleep, so they slept for 6 hours per night for 2 weeks. Group 3 slept for 8 hours per night for 2 weeks. And during all of their waking hours, during this 2-week period, they monitored their cognitive performance at regular intervals through the day. What they found was that, as you'd expect, the group who didn't sleep at all, they had 2 nights actually without sleep, their cognitive performance was terrible. It dropped off very, very quickly. The group who slept for 8 hours per night, their cognitive performance stayed pretty stable. It was okay for the 2-week period. But the group who slept for 6 hours per night, their cognitive performance got worse and worse and worse until after 14 days, their cognitive performance was equivalent to going without sleep for an entire night. Now, they did something else quite interesting in this study. They also monitored how sleepy and impaired people felt. And what they discovered was that while the people who didn't sleep at all felt very sleepy and impaired very quickly, the group who slept for 6 hours per night, after 2 weeks, they didn't feel that much more sleepy and impaired as if they'd slept for 8 hours per night. See, this is the problem. Many of us are performing in a suboptimal state, but we just don't realise it because it's become the new normal. So my challenge to you is to do an experiment. Try to sleep adequately for a few nights, see how you feel, and then you'll start to discover maybe if you are one of that fraction of a percent who have that genetic variation. So that's my answer to question 1. Can we have the questions back up on the screen, please? So we had some interesting questions. I don't know how the votes will have changed, but okay, so we'll take the second one maybe. Can I share some of the ways that I personally practice strategic recovery? Oh, actually, no, we've got 5 now. Sorry, we've got 5 for this. What is the one performance technique that has led your company to deliver so many podium finishes to date? Good question. The one performance technique. Well, do you want me to tell you the secret? The secret to all these podium wins? Well, the reality is, I could dodge the question by saying there's lots of factors, and it's true there are lots of factors. But if I was to try and pin down one superpower, which I think differentiates high performers in both sport and business, but differentiates top performers in motorsport and in Formula One in particular, it would be this. The number one characteristic is focus. See, focus is an aspect of attention. When we talk about attention, we talk about it in some interesting ways sometimes. Like, have you ever said, they're not paying attention? Or I got distracted and lost my attention? Well, the reality is that that's not actually possible. We're always paying attention. The question is, are you paying attention to the right things? See, attention works like a spotlight. That spotlight is always on, but that spotlight is often moving. And so if I say I'm not paying attention, what's actually happening is that my attention spotlight is actually over here when it should be here. I think the superpower of Formula One drivers, the superpower actually potentially of the 21st century, is to manipulate your attention, is to have control of your attention, and to be able to place that attentional focus in the right place at the right time. So the key to sustainable high performance to those victories has been that those drivers have been able to focus on the right thing at the right time consistently well for season after season. One of the things that we help those drivers do through the services that we offer, through the coaching that we provide, is to create an environment where they're able to focus by eliminating distractions, but also to sometimes give them a little bit of a nudge and a reminder to make sure they focus on what's most important. I think there's a lesson there that we can take that also applies equally well to the workforce. And I think it relates to how the workplace has changed from the 20th century into the 21st. So if you imagine for a moment, there's a graph with two axes. You've got a x-axis here, and in the 20th century, arguably, the y-axis was all about productivity. The output, the y-axis was productivity. That's what we wanted. And to get productivity, the input was here on the x-axis. That was time and effort. And I think back in the 20th century, there was a fairly linear relationship between the time and the effort that we put in and the productive output that we got out. But I think that relationship has been transformed completely in the 21st century. And now on the x-axis, instead of time and effort, we've still got effort, that's still important, but this part becomes timing. And instead of productivity as the output, we're now looking for impact. So timing and effort comes together to create impact. And whether you're a Formula One driver or a business person, it's crucial that we find what to focus on so that we can prioritize, and we stop using presenteeism, just sitting there as a proxy for productivity, and start really thinking about where we're going to make the biggest impact and have the biggest difference. And I see that in high performers in sports, also in Formula One, that these drivers are able to consistently focus on what matters most and get the impact that will make a difference, whether that's race wins or business performance. So that's my thoughts on that. So let's get the questions up again. We'll see what's happened with the votes. I think we're going to take 3 questions. This might be the last one. So with 4 votes, if I could only change one thing to ensure sustained peak performance, what would it be? Well, I think I can actually probably bundle the answer to this question with this one. Because my top tip would be to rediscover how to recover. High performers in both sport and business work hard and they recover harder. Recovery is a skill. Recovery is one of those things that we rarely focus on, and many of us certainly don't prioritize. But it's only when we actually recover, we take a step back, that we're able to recharge and replenish ourselves. So I've got one top tip for you for your recovery, and that is to retrain your brain to be able to detach and switch off again. And it's a simple thing that you can try at almost any point during your day, but probably the optimal time is when you're waiting for something. Now, I don't know about you, but I've noticed there is a global epidemic. It doesn't matter where I am in the world, it seems that human beings have lost the ability to wait in a queue for more than 15 seconds without pulling out their smartphone. And I think I'm just as guilty of it. Now, wherever I go, Starbucks, doesn't matter if it's in Singapore, Shanghai, the United States or the United Kingdom, if I stand in a queue for more than 15 seconds and look around me, everyone is looking at these things. If I'm waiting at the gate, about to get onto the plane, what do? I don't look out the window, I pull out my phone. We never practice switching off anymore. And then we wonder why we can't switch off at the end of the day and go to sleep. So my top tip to us all is this: retrain your brain to switch off. Rediscover recovery. It doesn't need to take a long time, it could just be a moment. The next time you get an opportunity to pause, take it. My challenge is the next time you stand in a queue, look at the world around you. Maybe speak to somebody, or not. Enjoy a moment in silence and rest, because high performers in both sport and business work hard and recover harder. So we've answered 3 questions. Sounds like there's some good conversations happening. I'm sure you are eager to get on with your next course and delicious desserts. I'm going to be hanging around this evening. I'll be available if you've got some questions that you want to come and ask me. But for now, thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the rest of your meal.
Thank you so much, James, once again for that very valuable sharing and taking all those questions. Wow, and of course, if you've got any more questions for James, I believe he will still be here for a while more, so do catch him before you leave. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to come to the end of this evening's event, we hope everyone over here managed to take away some insights and tips from our renowned performance scientist, James Hewitt. Now, on behalf of Prudential, or should I say on behalf of Opus by Prudential, I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank all our partnering brands right now. A big thank you to Tagheuer, the Fullerton Hotels, LCF Singapore, Cornerstone Wines, Porsche Club Singapore, Autobahn Motors, and Omnia Lifestyles. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before you head home, please remember to scan the QR code and fill out our feedback survey on Pigeonhole, so that we will be able to improve your next experience with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with that, my name is MC Wayne Chan. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting for you tonight, and I wish you now a pleasant evening. Good night, everybody.